Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to implement the presentation layer of the wishlist feature. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Under the wishlist feature, presentation, let's create the needed events, states, and the view model for the wishlist manager. We have only one single screen here. It's going to be called wishlist manager screen. From the previous applications, iOS, Android, and even Vuetify, we can infer the needed states and the needed events. For the wishlist manager states, we need the page loading and the wishlist that's going to be displayed. For the navigation, going to add here a breadcrumb. Therefore, we have just to do home and wishlist for the breadcrumb items. For the selected wishlist to be deleted, and basically a computer property to check if this wishlist is empty. And again, I'm going to show the warning message if the page is not loading and we don't have any items in the wishlist. Now for the event, it's very simple. We're going to define the event as we have done in the other features. For the first event, it's going to be get wishlist items, and we have to set the selected item to be deleted and to reset the breadcrumb navigation. We are now ready to implement the wishlist manager view model. For the first dependency, we need the wishlist use cases. Inject another dependency for the dispatcher to synchronize between the assertion and what's going to happen in the UI. We have one state, the wishlist manager state, and let's define the needed events on event. All right, let's create the needed functions. All right, let's start with this one. To reset the breadcrumb navigation, we're going to update the state with this new state. The navigation items should be reinitialized to the same thing that we have done here. I'm going to copy it from the states. On set selected wishlist item with the new state, selected wishlist item equal item from the parameter. Now to get the wishlist item. First of all, we're going to use the dispatcher to change the state of the page loading and the current wishlist. Is page loading to true and wishlist equal empty array. Now we have to invoke the use case. Now we have to change the state again and to reassign the new data and add the items. Now if we have an error, we're going to set is page loading to false and call the action on error. Now we have to define another function to delete item from the wishlist. It's going to be a command, and we have to make sure that the user will be able to delete any item if only if the selected wishlist item is not null. Let's add here computer property can delete selected wishlist item is not null. Now we have to notify this state of the changes of this computer property can delete wishlist item. Can execute changed for name of the delete wishlist item command. This is very intuitive. I like that. Inside the relay command, the computer property can delete. We need to make sure that the selected item is not null and the user ID is not null. Let's wrap everything with try catch. Let's call the use case. Now we have deleted basically the item. Let's add a callback function or an action that's going to be triggered to show snack bar message. And if we do have an error, let's show another snack bar message for error. Therefore, I'm going to add here some public actions. Down here, we're going to do on wishlist success and selected item, and we have to access the title. Otherwise, let's just do an empty string. After doing this, we're going to assign the selected wishlist item to null, which is very important to make sure that we are done basically deleting this particular item, because we're not going to show the dialog of the confirmation if we don't select the item to be deleted. Now, if we do have a problem, we're going to call the function delete error. And finally, we have to refresh the list by doing on get wishlist items, and we have to pass here as a callback function. By passing here, we are not able actually to delete the wishlist item. That's about it for the implementation of the view model. The screen is going to be represented using a page. Let's start with the code behind to define the needed dependency properties. This screen actually is very simple. We need only one state, which is a dependency property of type wishlist manager state. And for the rest, we're going to do it accordingly. Now let's switch back to the design and make the representation for this screen. Let's add a margin to this grid We're going to represent the screen as we have done under the product detail screen. The top section of the screen should be for the breadcrumb items, and the rest of the page should be for the list of the items of the wishlist. For the first row, it's going to be for the breadcrumb. Let's maintain actually the same margin as we have done under the product detail screen and the same horizontal alignment. Whenever we click on a particular item inside the breadcrumb, let's change it in the code behind. Items from the state, and for the ancestor type, it's going to be page. Now for the rest of the page, it's going to be represented using a grid. Why? Because it's going to show the progress indicator and the warning message and the content of the page. Let's place here the progress indicator first. We need to add the automation ID. Let's import again all the needed dependencies here. 60. Let's center it horizontally and vertically. Is indeterminate. And for the value, it has to be 0. It's going to be visible according to the state is page loading. Therefore, we need a converter, the Boolean to visibility converter. Register the converter here. To get rid of the error, let's merge the dictionaries by adding the design time theme that we have implemented in the beginning of the video. Let's build the project. Now for the visibility, you have to use the binding, and we have to assign as dependency is page loading, and we have to use the converter, Boolean to visibility converter. Now for the page content, I will add here the card from core UI. Now this content should be visible when the page loading is false. We're going to add this later on. Let's add some margin, border radius, and the background of this card should be surface. And instead of using Boolean to visibility converter, we're going to use inverse Boolean to visibility converter. Let's register the converter. Inverse Boolean to visibility converter. Let's wrap everything within a stack panel. And we have to add here the warning message. Let's set the max width. We're going to assign this. Let's add the minimum height to 80. And for the visibility, it has to be visible according to the state is empty wishlist that we have implemented earlier. Under the state, I'm talking about this, is empty wishlist. And of course, the ancestor is page, not user control. And for the background should be warning. With the same manner for the visibility, it's going to be according to this particular state. And we have to add the Boolean to visibility converter. Let's add some margin. And for the icon, let's use information. Let's set the icon size to 40. And for the feedback message from the string resource, text empty wishlist. Now we have to put underneath this particular warning message, the list of items. Using items control, let's add some margin. For the item source, it's going to be from the state wishlist. And for the section items control should be visible according to the computer property is empty wishlist. However, we're going to use the inverse Boolean to visibility converter, which means the false value. Now the wrapper is going to be a stack panel. And for each item, we're going to represent it with a component that we're going to call wishlist item view. And the component creates a new user control. Let's call it wishlist item view. Let's start with the code behind. Let's add the first dependency property that's going to be for testing purposes. Let's call it, for example, delete button accessibility ID or something like this. Another dependency property, it's going to be for the wishlist item, and that's all. Switch back to the design. We're going to represent this in a horizontal sequence. We will have the item here and the button that's going to delete or to open the dialog in the right corner. Therefore, we're going to use colon definition. For the first section, it's going to occupy the maximum width, and for the rest, it's going to be for the button. For the first element, it's going to be wrapped within stack panel to represent the async image and the list containing, again, the title and perhaps the category in a vertical sequence. The first element, it's going to be the async image. We're going to copy it from the product card. All right, let's use again the same technique that we have done earlier. Even though it doesn't always solve the problem, I'm going to copy this. And here I'm going to add the resource section. All right, so we have the image. As said earlier, it doesn't solve all the problems when it comes to design. For some reason, I don't know why. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think for the width, let's do, for example, 200 or 180. Let's keep it initially 200, all right? I'm going to fold this section, and the other stack panel will contain the rest for the title, I guess, and the description or the category. I'm gonna add a margin. And for the title, I'm gonna represent it using a button. The padding 0, background transparent, border transparent. And let's hoist the method whenever we click on this particular button. We're gonna hoist this by creating a public event. What we have to put here is very simple. A text containing the title of the product. And since we are in a Windows application, let's add a context menu. Under this text block, context menu. For the first item, first of all, we have to add context menu and menu item. Whenever we click on this particular context menu for the first menu, we're gonna call the on product click. All right, now for the header, it's gonna be a normal text showing, for example, learn more. And for the icon, we're gonna use the SVG image information. Let's add another menu item for delete product or to delete this product. We're gonna fold this menu item and add another one. All right, whenever we click on this particular item, we're going to show the dialog. Let's call it on delete item click. Change it in the code behind. Let's fold this section and build the project. Underneath, I'm going to add a text block containing the price and another text block containing is in stock or not. Now for the style of this text, it should be variant, of course, according to the computer property in stock or not in stock. In order to do so, we have to use the trigger in order to basically change the color accordingly. Let's override the property style based on material design body2 text block. Now we have to set the data trigger, the computer property in stock, that's going to control the setter foreground. For example, it's going to be success if the product is in stock, and if the product is not in stock, it's going to be error. With the same manner, if it's not in stock, it's going to be error. Now we are done with this stack panel. Now for the second column, it has to be the button. Let's use button. Let's add the automation ID, and the grid column should be 1. For the horizontal alignment should be right, and vertical alignment top. For the background, it should be error, and the border brush should be transparent. The style of this particular button should be based on floating action mini button. And let's add a tooltip, delete, for example, from the string resource. And whenever we click on this particular button, on delete item click. For the content, it's going to have only the SVG image, delete from image resources. All right, let's switch back to the code behind. Let's create the public events to hoist those methods. On products click, we're going to trigger the event products click by passing the products ID. And here we have to trigger the event delete click by passing the current wishlist item. That's pretty much it. Now let's come back to the wishlist screen. First of all, I'm just going to add a margin top for the automation ID. It's going to be the ID of the wishlist from the strings under automation ID. Now for the wishlist item, it's going to be binding. And let's handle the delete click. Gonna create it in the code behind. And the products click, let's go back to the code behind and let's modify this. And here it should be product ID. And that's all we have for the screen design section. Let's try to hoist those methods on breadcrumb clicks triggered, as well as delete click and on products click. For the breadcrumb item click triggered, we're gonna pass data type a string representing the current item. For the products click, we're gonna pass the wishlist item ID of type long. And for the delete click, we have to pass the wishlist item record. Now for the products click, we have to pass to the navigation data the ID of type long. I'm gonna invoke the event, passing home this and wishlist item. I have to pass this. And for the second argument, it has to be a new navigation data of type long, and we have to maintain the navigation service. And that's pretty much it for the screen. From material design WPF, we need to set dynamically the content of the dialog. Under component, let's create a new user control. Let's call it delete wishlist dialog content. Let's define the dependency properties for this dialog content. As we have done in the other applications, we need to show the title of the products in a different font. It's going to be a dependency property, and we need the delete command and the command parameter. We're going to use the core UI and the dialog content. Let's do medium, and for the background should be background, and the header background should be warning. Now for the header, it contains the text confirmation, and for the main content, are you sure you want to delete this product title from wishlist? We're going to use a text block. The margin, let's do some margin, for example, 8 or 10. It has to be centered vertically, and the style, it's going to be body 1. We don't have here annotated strings, nor to concatenate two text blocks. We can use that differently under WPF by using run, and we have to set the first stream resource to be attached, which is the stream resource confirmation part 1. Next, we're going to set with a different font title of the product for the text from the dependency property product title. For the font weight, it should be bold, and the second part of the text. For the record, for the ancestor type, try to hard-code it to delete wishlist item dialog content. And for the footer, we're going to do the same thing that we have done in the login form, placing the delete button as well as the close button at the right corner of this dialog. I'm going to copy the same structure. I'm going to paste it here. Now let's add the method on close click. All right, let's come back to the code behind of delete wishlist item dialog. Let's hoist the method on close click. This is the only method that we have to hoist. And we have to invoke close dialog click. I think that's pretty much it for this section of presentation layer. Now let's do a preview for this. And the features preview host, add a new project reference. Let's add wishlist feature. All right, let's add another state for the wishlist manager state. And we have to do the same thing that we have done in the view model. Let's create the computer property can delete wishlist item. Now just for the event section, it's going to be very simple. Let's create those methods with the same manner, going to update the needed states. Let's surround this block with try catch, page loading to true. Let's add a delay of 1.5 seconds. And using the app current and dispatcher, we have to update the state of the page loading and the wishlist. And if we have an error, we're going to call on error. All right, we have to implement one last command, which is to delete the current item. And let's attach this command to notify this state. Let's try to find the wishlist item from the state. Wishlist. The item is not going to proceed. Let's delay with the 1.5. And let's remove the wishlist item from the observable collection and call the success action. Next, we have to set the selected wishlist item to null, and let's refresh the data. And if we have an error, we're going to call delete error action. I think that's pretty much it. Now let's create the preview. Let's start with the code behind. Let's create the view model and the snack bar controller. And before I forget, let's register the view model, wishlist manager view model. Delete this and register. Now let's come back to the presentation. Let's wrap the whole thing within dialog host. Inside we have to put a frame basically, and we have to put the snack bar. All right, let's switch back to the code behind. Let's attach the snack bar data context. Now let's attach a handler for the action on wishlist item delete success. In this case, we're going to close the dialog host. All right. Next, we're going to show the snack bar. Let's implement this function. We're going to show something like the item has been deleted successfully. Now, whenever this component is ready, we have to trigger the event get wishlist items. All right. If you have an error, we're going to show a snack bar message. Let's show, for example, an error occurred while getting the data. This is exactly what we're going to do in the real implementation of the layout. Now let's create the screen to navigate to, which is of type wishlist screen. And you have to assign the data context view model. Next, you have to create explicitly the binding for the dependency properties. Now the target, basically it's going to be this particular screen. The target property, it's a wishlist manager screen and state property. We have to bind it to the state wishlist manager state under preview view model. Now the source, it's going to be view model of type preview view model. Name of view model, we have named it actually wishlist manager state. And for the mode here, it's going to be one way. Now let's attach the needed events, delete click, products click, and breadcrumb item click. And finally, we're going to navigate to this destination by doing mainframe and navigate to screen. On breadcrumb click, let's show a normal message box. On products click, let's show a normal message box again. For this particular function, on delete click, we have to show dynamically the dialog. First of all, we have to set the selected item. We can create the content, delete wishlist item dialog content. For the data context, it's going to be view model of type preview view model. And for the product title, it's going to be from wishlist item. We need to bind the target property, delete command, to command that belongs to the preview view model. And we have to attach a handler for the event close dialog. Basically, we're going to close the dialog. Next, we have to wait for the aperture of the dialog by doing await, show dialog, content, confirm dialog, app dialog host. This should be void instead of task. That's all. Now let's add this window. Let's add it here. All right, let's run the preview. Loading indicator. And I think that we have some kind of problem here in the layout. Let's see if we have some binding issues first. All right, we don't have any binding issues. We have to wrap it with scroll view. No problem. You clicked home, for example. Let's check the context menu. All right, learn more. Remove from wishlist. Let's click, for example, learn more. Navigate into product detail of ID3. Let's click on this. All right, let's, for example, click on delete to show the dialog. Remove from wishlist. Very good. Are you sure you want to delete this headphones from your wishlist? Let's click on delete. It's not going to delete it actually, but every time it's going to load the same list. Otherwise, you have to store it somewhere. Let's click on delete. Let's proceed with the other one, with the context menu. Remove from wishlist. Let's check if we have some binding issues. 0. All right, very good. I think that's enough. Now to wrap up the video, we're going to make the integration test for the view model. Now for the dispatcher, it's going to be the mock dispatcher or the test dispatcher. All right. I would like to add to the mock data the login response. It's going to contain basically the user DTO and the token. Now let's come back to the test. Let's add the correct wishlist. The first test, we need to make sure that the event get wishlist items should get entire wishlist for the current user. Let's insert some data to the database and let's arrange the GWT token and create the task completion source. Now we have to observe the changes manually of the view model when it comes to the property state. Now for the property state, we're going to store when the page is not loading. We will try to set the result state when the wishlist is not empty. Now we have to act by triggering the event get wishlist items, and the test will fail if we have an error. Now we have to wait for 5 seconds before making the assertion. If we don't have any results, we're going to throw timeout exception. Now we can access the final state. For the assertion, we need to make sure that the wishlist is not empty and the wishlist is equivalent to the correct wishlist items. That's all for this test, and that's going to be the only test that we're going to conduct in this particular section. Let's run the test. And the test passed. That's going to wrap up our today's video. For the next video, we're going to implement the last feature for this tutorial, which is settings feature, before gluing everything together in the main section of our application. I hope you have learned something new. See you in the next one, and happy coding!